I give a fuck about women's rugby. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Women's Six Nation is back this weekend, and we'll talk about why I'm cursing in the intro, a little bit later in the video. But basically, there have been some goings on, some shenanigans in Irish rugby. This one, though, it's Italy versus Ireland. It's at 6:45 BST in Stadio Sergio Lanfranchi in Parma. We'll have a look at the two teams, starting with Italy. So, fullback is Capomaggi, right wing Muso, centres are Solari and Rigoni. Dinka is on the left wing, halfbacks Madia and Stefan. Front row is Maris, Piccini and Guy. Second row is Tunesi and Duca. Back row is Scorbini, Locatelli, and Franco. Then replacements: Stecca, Casaghi, Say, Fedrighi, Gurioli, Ranucci, Baratin, and Stefani. Then the Ireland team fullback is Delaney. Doyle is on the right wing. Centre partnership is Dalton and McGann. Behan is on the left wing. Halfbacks are O'Brien and Hughes. Front row is Jugang, Jones, and Haney. Second row is Friday and Monaghan. Back row is Wall, Moore, and Nick Baird. The replacements then: Nielsen, McGrath, Boogie, O'Connor, Hogan, Scuffle, McCabe, Irwin, and Dealey. Okay, so let's talk about the team news. So for Italy, we got three changes and two positional switches from the side that lost to England. We got Elisa Dinka comes back into the team, having missed the last game. I'm pretty sure she got a head knock in the first game against France. Then we have Capomaggi and Locatelli are promoted from the bench. Then captain Sophia Stefan, she was on the left wing last week, but switches back to scrum half for this one. And then Giada Franco, she switches from 8 to 7 to accommodate Locatelli in the back row. Ireland, they've made three changes from the side that lost to France. We have Laura Delaney in at fullback. Maeve Dealey drops to the bench. Anna McGrath comes into the centres, and Irwin also drops to the bench. Ailsa Hughes is in for Scuffle McCabe, who also drops to the bench. And I think that might be a good change because the serves at 9 was pretty slow against France. We have no changes in the pack. This one is 5th in the world versus 9th. But in terms, I think, in terms of their, performance so far in this Six Nation, there's been a bigger gulf than that between these two teams. For Italy, they had a difficult afternoon against England. They did lose 68-5, but they did make England work for their scores, and their heads didn't drop at any time during that game either. And they had some decent passages of play against a team who are ranked number 1 in the world. They had 34% or 35% possession, and 34% territory in that game, and they averaged 2.5 points per visit to the opposition 22. So that means they basically got into England 22 twice, but they scored a try on one of those occasions, which is a pretty good return. Obviously, they'd want to be getting in position a bit more, and they probably will do against Ireland. They had 2 breakdown steals and 5 turnovers in all, and competed very well at the breakdown. The scrum was a respectable 75% against a very strong England pack. 89% of the line-out, and they actually stole 2 of England throws, and they did the same against France as well. So the line-out is a very good unit for them, both in attack and defence. Franco was their top carrier with 86 meters. Minuzzi was next with 74. Rigoni, had a decent kicking display from 12 with 171 meters kicked. Scorbini, top tackler with 20. Then you had Solari with 19. Piccini, Genesi, and Franco all with 17 each. Duca was the main target in the lineout with 6 takes, and Piccini and Giordani, who doesn't play this one, or at least doesn't start this one, had a steal each in the lineout as well. And overall it was a decent performance given how much England are ahead of pretty much all of the teams in the Six Nations. But you can see that Italy are developing and they're on, I think, the right track. On to Ireland then. So they lost to France by a record 53-3 in what was actually an improved display from 2 weeks prior against Wales. I know that Friday didn't like the fact that people were saying it was improved when they lost by a record score, but you just have to call it as you see it, I think. And, this Ireland team, there's, a lot of reasons why they are in the position that they're in. Some of it is self-inflicted by the IRFU, and, some of it is just a case of players need to get used to this level of rugby. They had 52% possession and 54% territory, but they never really looked set in possession. And what I mean by that is anytime that they set up a ruck, you could see people waving people to get into position and stuff like that, and it would take ages for them to actually move the ball. And by then, like, France already have the defensive line set. It was fairly easy for them most of the time to cut, Ireland dead right when they were trying to get some go forward ball. So obviously that's something communication really needs to be worked on, and also just players knowing their roles when they're in possession, knowing whether they are going to be a carrier or a dummy runner or cleaning out or whatever, and where they need to be in the line given what that role is going to be. That's obviously something that they haven't, or at least up until the French game, hadn't got down. Maybe now they've had 2 weeks to work on it. Maybe it's going to be better against Italy. We had, they averaged 0 points per visit to the opposition 22 because the only points they got was a penalty, which was from outside of the 22. They went 100% in the scrum though, which really improved from the Wales game. They won 2 of the French put-ins, forcing 2 penalties there. So that's, a real positive for them, showing that there is progress being made with the group. Sometimes at the start it can be difficult to see that it is happening. We even had it with the men's team as well, with Andy Farrell when he came in first. People were wondering what is going on with Ireland. They look disjointed, they look kind of all over the place, and then suddenly the attacking game started to come together as the rest of the play was coming together as well, and they looked like night and day. So hopefully with the women, the same thing's going to happen with them too. There is a lot of work to be done, but it feels like the players and the coaches are very committed to doing that. The lineout was at 66% against France. France stole 2 of their lineouts. Ireland managed to steal one of France's, but I think it's probably an area where Italy will target Ireland because Italy's lineout has gone really well so far in the competition. Dervla Nicobade was the top carrier with 97 meters from 8. Then Nicola Friday next with 56, and Grace Moore with 50 meters. Grace Moore really had very good impact on her carries because there was a couple of times when she got tackled, she kept going forward. A lot of the Irish women, when they got into contact, the French were either stopping them dead or driving them back. But she was one of the players who was able to just drive through that tackle and very good body height when she's going into contact, and very good leg drive as well. So we need a few more like her, or a few others, just to kind of again get used to the level, and maybe we'll see some better performances and better results as well. Neve Jones was the top tackler for the second game in a row with 19 tackles. Dorothy Wall then with 13. Had a couple of others as well with 12 each. Friday claimed all 5 lineouts. Ireland won, including 1 steal. But against this Italy team, I think they're going to have a bit more variety in their lineout, because Italy will target it to try and steal. So going to Friday, although it's maybe the safest ball for us, it's also very predictable for Italy to get a pot up there and challenge as well. So we need clean lineout ball, I think, to be able to go through some of our set moves as well. Jugang had a decent all-around game. I felt 34 meters in the carry. She's another one who can keep going after contact. 12 tackles from her. A couple of those are dominant as well, and it's good to see that. Like, not just trying to, stop the opposition, where we've seen like a lot of the Irish tackles are kind of just trying to hold on to the person, whereas she was trying to push them back as well in the tackle. Grace Moore, as I said, tackled really well and just making that ground after contact. I think, again, there are good players in there. It's just a case of getting working as a unit and bringing the younger players on with the players who are having an impact as well, to get them up to the same level. Just in terms of some chat during the week, like scrum coach Dennis Fogarty, he's been talking about how the week off really gave the squad a chance to regroup. And, I think, as I said, the scrum went well against France, and hopefully it can go a step further against Italy as well, and maybe be a weapon and a good platform for them. Captain Nicola Friday, she was saying that it's very frustrating that they couldn't take their chances when they had France under pressure, and it's a good step forward that they are getting those chances now, that it's not just all one-way traffic, and that kind of stuff. It's going to come with time, and it can be frustrating for the players, but as long as people are seeing progress from the team, they're going to stick behind them. And everybody, like most people that follow women's rugby in Ireland, they know what's going on behind the scenes, the total mismanagement by the IRFU of the women's game over the last number of years, which has left us in this position, from going from a team that was able to challenge the likes of the Black Ferns and the Red Roses, to a team that are probably going to get the wooden spoon this year based on the performances from the first 2 rounds. But people understand what's going on there, and they're going to be patient with the team, but also they're going to air their frustrations about how well the IRFU are supporting the women's game, because that needs to change. But I think everybody is behind the women in the team and the wider squad as well. But then we have Greg Williams. He's been bemoaning the amount of negativity, and also the time we have an article that came out being critical of the IRFU. He said a couple of days before a big game, why is this article coming out? But the article is basically from an unnamed player. They said that there were problems sourcing protein supplements before last year's trip to Japan. Also, players finding out that they've been dropped via email rather than having a conversation with the head coach and stuff like that. Players weren't consulted about the switch from white shorts to navy shorts, and then also the RFU not showing any interest at all in flexible contracts, trying to get players, the ability to maybe work and still be contracted to the RFU as well, but being able to dedicate more time because of that support that they're getting. That there was the RFU were just not budging on that. It was either you have a full-time contract or you don't get a contract at all. And like a lot of those things are they're very easy fixes for the RFU. And you know, I don't think though Greg McWilliams, sorry, by his response is that he's the guy to fix it, because he's been talking about how he basically wants to just focus on the rugby side of things and doesn't want to get involved in all these other issues. He has talked about how certain things we can fix, we should do better, we can fix. Talking about the not consulting about the navy shorts and things like better preparation, and also communication with the players. Communication is key, like that. He talked about there being having meetings every couple of days and stuff like that as well, for issues to be brought up. But it feels like some of the players don't want to bring those issues up in the environment at the moment, and maybe it's going to have to take time for that to happen. Until then, though, there has to be an outlet for the players to be able to voice their grievances and have more say, and just be consulted. It should be second nature to the RFU that if you're making changes, you consult the players and you get their feedback before making announcements, and then having kind of a backlash to it. And they need to change that. But also there was a whole thing of who was it? There was the president of the RFU was giving a speech last month. John Robson's giving a speech, and someone shouted up during the speech, "Who gives a fuck about women's rugby?" That's why you have that intro to this video, because I do give a fuck about it. I think a lot of people do. And this Muppet, whoever they were, shouldn't be involved in any kind of decision making in the RFU. Don't know what who this person is or what their role is, and people don't seem to know at the moment either. But we don't need people like that in the game of rugby, I think, because I've said it loads of times before that women's rugby is the number one area for potential growth in the sport of rugby. You're talking about going from the situation where we have now with Ireland, where they're not getting huge crowds, they're having to play in smaller grounds, like they're playing. Was it in? I can't remember. Oh, in Musgrave Park, right? Last time they're playing there, but you're talking about potentially going from there to within 5 or 10 years' time for the women's rugby team to be selling out the Aviva Stadium regularly. And that's the potential that's there. And who doesn't want, forget about whether it's morally right or wrong to dismiss the women's game in the first place, because obviously that's another discussion, but that shouldn't be happening. But from a commercial point of view, people talk about trying to grow the game and create extra revenue streams, blah blah blah. But you have one right in front of you where develop it, and suddenly you're getting all this extra revenue from gate receipts, and and you're not just talking about the same fans. You're going to get a lot more women being fans of rugby, because they see people that they can identify with in terms of the players, and they're going to want to come to games and buy merchandise and do exactly the same that happens now with the men's game. And I just don't get the kind of dinosaur backward thinking of just dismiss it out of hand. It's crazy. But yeah, so that's why we have that intro on this video. But from Williams' responses to what's been going on, he seems very defensive about it, and as he said himself, he's trying to focus on just rugby aspects. but I think someone does need to address these concerns, and maybe they need like a director of rugby akin to a Leo Cullen who can deal with that side of things, leave McWilliams to just being the head coach and focusing that side of things, but like ignoring the issues and just saying let's concentrate on the rugby. It's not going to make those issues go away, and they need to be fixed. And like, yeah, I think like they need to look at it and bring somebody in who is willing to, do the work, build the consensus that obviously needs to be built within the RFU, and really drive forward the changes that need to happen. Because it's not coming from the top from the RFU, and it's not coming from the coach either. And there needs to be somebody, I think, sitting in the middle whose responsibility is to look after that and, take care of that. And maybe, if I think a good olive branch would be to offer one of those ex-players that signed a letter that was critical of the RFU a role like that to actually come in and sort all of that crap out. But in terms of performance, like as we said, for Ireland, there were some good moments against France, but they did look ponderous too often. I think like too much time figuring out who's going where and what's happening, and the ball is sitting at the bottom of the ruck. Sometimes the French are coming in, then the referee saying the ball's out. Scrum half doesn't know what to do because nobody is set. French come in and turn over the ball. They need to get things clicking a lot more, and hopefully the 2 weeks that they've had will help with that. But again, it's a pretty new group. They still need to gel, but they've still got a lot of work to do. I think from Italy's point of view, they are obviously a lot further on in their development compared to this Ireland team, and I think that they're probably going to take the win in this one.